Jasodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrāja Kacharya Ashtotarita Srimad Abhay Charana Ravindam Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Kuri Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Iskan Bibhiti Samstapkacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Maya Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Shrimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Shrimati Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Yagna Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai Samveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 13, entitled The Appearance of Lord Braha, text number 39. Om namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo namaste khila-mantra-devatā. Namo namaste khila-mantra-devatā. Dravyāya sarva-kratave kriyā-ātmane. Dravyāya sarva-kratave kriyātmane. Vairāgya-bhaktyātmajayānubhāvita. Vairāgya-bhaktyātmajayānubhāvita. Jñānāya vidyā-gurave namo namaḥ. Jñānāya vidyā-gurave namaḥ. Namo namaste khila-mantra-devatā. Dravyāya sarva-kratave kriyātmane. vairāgya-bhaktyātmajayānubhāvita. Jñānāya vidyā-gurave namo namaḥ. Namo namaste khila-mantra-devatā. Dravyāya sarva-kratave kriyātmane. vairāgya-bhaktyātmajayānubhāvita. Jñānāya vidyā-gurave namo namaḥ. Namo namaste khila-mantra-devatā. Dravyāya sarva-kratave kriyātmane. vairāgya-bhaktyātmajayānubhāvita. Ladies, namo namaste khila-mantra-devatā. Bhāvita. Namaḥ, namaḥ. Obeisances unto you. Te, unto you, who are worshipable. Akhila, all inclusive. Mantra, hymns. Devatā, the Supreme Lord. dravyāya, unto all ingredients for performing sacrifices. Sarva-kratave, unto all kinds of sacrifices. Kriyā-ātmane, unto you, the supreme form of all sacrifices. Vairāgya, renunciation. Bhaktyā, by devotional service. Ātma-jaya-anubhāvita, perceivable by conquering the mind. Jñānāya, such knowledge. Vidyā-gurave, the supreme spiritual master of all knowledge. Namaḥ. Again, I offer my respectful obeisances. Translation. O Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are worshipable by universal prayers, Vedic hymns, and sacrificial ingredients. We offer our obeisances unto you. You can be realized by the pure mind, freed from all visible and invisible material contamination. We offer our respectful obeisances to you as the supreme spiritual master of knowledge in devotional service. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The qualification of bhakti, or devotional service to the Lord, is that the devotee should be free from all material contaminations and desires. This freedom is called vairāgya, or renouncement of material desires. One who engages in devotional service to the Lord, according to regulator principles, is automatically freed from material desires. And in that pure state of mind, one can realize the personality of Godhead. The personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, instructs the devotee regarding pure devotional service, so that he may ultimately achieve the association of the Lord. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 10 as follows. Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam tadami buddhiyogam tam yena mam upayanti te. One who constantly engages in the devotional service of the Lord with faith and love, the Lord certainly gives the intelligence to achieve him at the ultimate end. One has to conquer the mind, and one may do it by following the Vedic rituals and by performing different types of sacrifice. The ultimate end of all those performances is to attain bhakti, or the devotional service of the Lord. Without bhakti, one cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The original personality of Godhead, or his innumerable expansions of Vishnu, are the only objects of worship by all the Vedic rituals and sacrificial performances. Om ajnana-timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam jena tasmai shri gurave namaḥ. So, I'm very happy to be here today and to be able to address all of you devotees. I feel very fortunate to have your association. You're all living here in the Holy Dham, which is a great benediction and certainly a avenue for advancement in devotional service. Hare Krishna. So, this is a chapter where Vidur is hearing from Maitreya. He's inquiring from Maitreya. And that's the devotional process, is that one devotee inquires And another devotee explains. Vidura was asking about, from Maitreya, to explain about Manu, the son of Brahma. And Maitreya was thinking how fortunate he was to have the association of Vidura. And one verse explains how Krishna was so attached to Vidura that he put his feet on his lap while he was resting. So Maitreya, just by thinking of this, he was feeling very fortunate to have Vidura's association, and he was feeling ecstasy in remembrance of the Lord. So the earlier purports explain how the devotee of the Lord is the same as the Lord in quality. Right? So just by hearing about the Lord, one becomes purified. In the same way, if one hears about the devotees of the Lord, who are equal to the Lord in quality, one similarly can become purified. One becomes purified. So, hearing about Manu, the son of Lord Brahma, was the inquiry of Vidura, and Maitreya goes on to explain how Manu was very obedient to his father, and that's the natural process. Prabhupada explains that the son should not only take things from the father, like little kids are always saying, give me this, Daddy, I want that, give me this, give me that, right? Prabhupada relates a story how he was in the market with his father, Gaur Mohan De, and he saw a gun, and he said, I want that gun. And his father said, no, you don't need that gun. He said, no, I want the gun, right? So after, he fell down on the sidewalk and was kicking his legs, he wanted the gun. So Gaur Mohan De relented and bought him the gun. So he's got the gun. And then he told his father, I want another gun. And his father said, why? I bought you the gun. He said, no, but I got two hands. So this is the natural thing. The father supplies the needs of the son. But it doesn't end there, Prabhupada explains. Also the natural sequence of things is that as the son becomes older, he should render service to the father. Right? And in this particular chapter, it explains how Manu was very obedient to his father, Lord Brahma, and trying to understand what he wanted him to do. In the previous chapters, we heard about how the four Kumaras, although Lord Brahma wanted them to get married and propagate the population, expand the population, for spiritual reasons, they refused to do it. And Lord Brahma became angry, and from his forehead, Lord Shiva was born. But in this instance, Manu was very obedient, and in the material sense, that's how it actually should work. Of course, we're living in Kali Yuga, and a lot of times sons aren't so obedient. Then we see all around the world, sons, when they grow up, they just go on their own, and they kind of forget about their mother and their father, and old age homes are proliferating everywhere because of it. But that's not the natural system. Of course, one can think about what's the best kind of service that one can do for one's parents and whole family. And that we learn from the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam, where Prahlad Maharaj is asking Lord Nrsimhadev to deliver his father, right, his demoniac father. And Lord Nrsimhadev says, not only your father, but 14 generations in front and 14 generations behind, they're all liberated. So in that way, we can understand that the topmost service that one can do for one's parents is to become a pure devotee of Krishna. So, the first line of the purport, the qualification of bhakti or devotional service to the Lord is that a devotee should be free from all material contaminations and desires. And this is referred to, when one becomes free from material desire, this is referred to as bhakti. So the question is, how do we become free from material desires? Well, first of all, one should recognize that that's our problem, material desires. It's a problem. And that we want to get rid of material desires. Material desires are it's not something that's within our power to actually overcome, because we're contaminated by the material modes of nature. We're the pure spirit soul, living entity, superfluous to this material nature, but because of our material desires, we're trying to find happiness in this material world somehow or another. So the material energy is very powerful. It's Krishna's energy. It's non-different from Krishna. And therefore, overcoming it is not within our power, right? We need actually the mercy of the Supreme Lord. In the process of devotional service, following regulated principles, chanting the holy name of the Lord, is to attract the Lord so that He might have His mercy on us, so that we can overcome material desires. When Srila Prabhupada opened the Krishna Balaram Mandir in 1975, and by the way, this Ram Navami is 50 years since the opening of the Krishna Balaram Mandir. I had the good fortune of being there. When Srila Prabhupada was just after the opening, he was on a morning walk. So he told the devotees, he said, now you have Balaram. He had just installed Krishna in Balaram. So he said, now you have Balaram. And Balaram is very merciful. He can free you from all your material desires. So this is the mood of the devotee. He's pleading before the Lord that you please remove my material desires so that I can reestablish my lost relationship with you. And I can understand my real identity as your eternal servant. So this is the point in this verse. And Prabhupada cites the verse from the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Tesham satati yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvikam dadami buddhiyogam tam yenamam upayantite. That if we just continue to render devotional service, the Lord says that He'll give us the intelligence to achieve Him in the ultimate end. Right? In other words, Prabhupada gives the example that if you if you're the son of a very wealthy man, your father is very wealthy. So all you have to do to inherit that wealth is stay in the good books of your father, right? Just be obedient, be around, right? And you'll inherit his wealth. So that it's the same thing in devotional service. If we continually make the effort to perform those activities that are laid out by Krishna's pure devotee, then, it says in the Nectar Devotion, our right, it's like a right, it's adhikari is the word that's used in Sanskrit. Adhikari means you have a right, to enter into the spiritual world. So that's the encouraging promise that we receive from Krishna to engage in his devotional service, and in that way we'll also be able to conquer over the mind. Bhagavad Gita explains the mind is the best of friends. It also can be the worst of enemies when it's uncontrolled. So engaging the mind in the service of Krishna is very essential for us to stay in the process, stay in the association with the devotees, because the mind is so used to being in control and being the spiritual master of the living entity. When the living entity begins to chant Hare Krishna and render devotional service, it's like a declaration to the mind that I don't care for you anymore, right? And the mind's mentality is, oh yeah? Let's see, right? It's like a challenge, we'll see. And again, the mind is the energy of Krishna. It's much more powerful than the tiny, little, 1/10,000th of a hair, insignificant living entity, right? So what to do? It's like, you're in front of the 300-pound gorilla, and you're going to wrestle him, right? Huh? No, it's not going to be possible. But it is possible. How is it possible? It's possible because we have a very powerful weapon. When Dhruva Maharaj was killing the yakshas, right? They were raining down this illusory curtain of blood, pus, dead bodies, tridents. It was the illusion of the yakshas. And he had a very powerful weapon called the Narayanastra. And as soon as he put it in his bow, the illusion of the yakshas was dissipated, and he began to kill them like anything. And he was doing such a good job, Lord Brahma had to say, hey, wait a minute, hold on here, slow down. Right? So similarly, we have been given a very powerful weapon to fight the illusion that is created by our minds, which is the agent of Maya. And that is the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Millions of people are going to Kumbh Mela to take a bath. Millions. And, they're enduring the cold and the crowd and everything. But what's the result of that dip in the Ganga at a particular time? Anybody can tell me? What are they getting out of that? Well, not really. They become free from sins. They become an opportunity for liberation from material life. Okay? So, that's very good. And there was one reporter that was talking to Srila Prabhupada. He was saying, he was asking him what's the benefit, and Prabhupada he said, is it that we, can get liberation? Prabhupada said, that's there. Yeah. He was encouraging. But he also told the devotees when he went to Kumbh Mela that we're not here for taking a bath. We're here for preaching. Right? And in the first Kumbh Mela, it's described, I wasn't at that one where Prabhupada was in 1977, but more or less all the other Kumbh Melas after that, except for this one, I went to. And just as he instructed the devotees to go out and distribute books. So at that time, there was only one Hindi book, and it was Beyond Birth and Death, a small book. So the devotees were out there, and the sannyasis were out there with their, sannyas, what do they call that extension, the cloth, yukta? Anyway, they had it stretched out, and people were pouring in money, and they were giving out the books. And Prabhupada was very happy by that the devotees were doing Harinam Sankirtan and distributing these books. And subsequently in other Kumbh Melas also, we did the same thing. We had a stage, people would come, devotees were going out on Harinam with the Padayatra, bullock carts and Gaur-Nitai, and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Dinabandhu Prabhu was there, Sarvabhauma Prabhu, organizing the things. So they asked Dinabandhu this year, are you going to the Kumbh Mela? He's been all the other ones. They thought he would be going. He said, no, too old, too cold, and too crowded. So, but anyway, there's a nice team there, and they're chanting the holy name, and they're distributing lots of books and lots of prasadam. It's really expanding. The preaching is going on very nicely there. But anyway, the whole goal of that, so much an effort for obtaining freedom from sins and an opportunity for liberation, when one can easily obtain the same thing by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Here in this verse is a prayer to the Supreme Lord. Namo namaḥ, they're worshiping the Lord by this prayer. The Brahmins are worshiping the Lord. So the holy name of the Lord is also a prayer. When we're chanting the holy name, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it's like it is a Vedic hymn. The Brihad Naradiya Purana states it there. And just as the Brahmins chant the Vedas and the Lord is pleased and glorified, similarly when we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the Lord is pleased and the Lord is glorified. Not only that, but we become free from the effects of our past sinful activities and the contamination of so many lifetimes, and we become fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. So, the point is that one should chant the holy name of the Lord, and then try to chant the holy name without offense, and it will act. Our attraction for the material energy will wane, and our attraction for the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His devotees will awaken. It'll rise up. That attraction is there normally. It's naturally within the heart. And by the process of devotional service, following devotional service carefully, one can awaken that. The Lord in this chapter appears as a boar. The Lord's independent. He can come in any form that He likes, but we should never think that the form of the Lord is something material. Right? When the Lord accepts the form of a boar, He's not an ordinary boar. Right? And we can see that by His activities. When the Lord jumped into the ocean split in half, right? And it was very tumultuous noise, not ordinary, and dived down, and with his snout he picked up the earth planet and rose out of the ocean with the whole earth planet. And then he killed the demon Hiranyaksha. So these are not ordinary activities. No ordinary boar is going to do like that. But yet, there's a segment of society that think, they're following the Vedas. They're following Vedas, okay? And I won't mention their name, but they're not interested in the form of the Lord. They don't accept it. They're only attracted by the sacrificial, ceremonial performances of the Vedas. Right? There's a whole group of them. Right? So they even daily they perform one yajna, right? But they don't understand what is the purpose of the Vedas. If you perform sacrifices, proper, even Kali Yuga, you can't perform the Vedic sacrifices with proper, chanting of the mantras, etc. Otherwise, you'd be able to light the fire by your mantra, right? But we're using camphor and matches and, try to get the fire going. But they would just chant the mantra, it would start, right? So it's just Kali Yuga. But still, these persons, they're not interested in the form of the Lord. They don't go to temples. They just have their little yajna, which they're not even performing properly. So this people can become bewildered, and Krishna was telling that to Arjuna, Don't be a Vedavadi, just attached to the ceremonies, just attached to the ritual. But understand what the ritual is for, right? And that is to understand the transcendental nature of the Lord, to appreciate the Lord's form, to develop love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the essence of the Vedas. And Krishna says, Vedaischa sarvam aheva vedya. I'm the compiler of the Vedas. I'm the knower of the Vedas. And by all of the Vedas, I am to be known. This is the real purpose of the Vedic literatures, is to come to the platform of understanding Krishna and developing our relationship with Him. Hare Krishna. Are there any comments? No questions?
Thank you for that wonderful class, Hare Krishna. In the text, Srila Prabhupada is chosen to translate this with this line, you can be realized by the pure mind, free from all visible and invisible material contaminations. So I think we're familiar, every one of us, with our visible contaminations. Could you say something about the unlimited invisible contaminations in the mind?
Which is everything that's not connected to Krishna. Whatever it is. And it can be very subtle. We can come to Krishna consciousness. We can be in an institution, right? And we can think that the goal is to have a big position in the institution. And miss the point completely about bhakti, developing love of God. And sometimes it becomes very difficult to differentiate what is bhakti and what is a diversion from bhakti. You understand what I'm saying?
In that context, yes. I've been studying in the Bhakti Shastri course, the Nectar Devotion, and especially Nectar of Instruction, and I read that the mind, this covering, has been covering us since the beginning of the universe. And every life form that we have inhabited, millions of different species, every experience and every desire that we had in those different life forms doesn't leave the mind. It's there. That's one other concept of the invisible contamination. Since the beginning of the universe, we're talking about trillions and trillions of years of material experiences and material hankerings and material desires of every type of shape, because the bodies are all different. That's all in the invisible part of the mind, according to Prabhupada's purports. So this translation says you can realize Krishna when you're free from all of that, which we don't even know we're carrying around. So I just found that
so many impressions in the mind from previous lifetimes, and they mix up, Prabhupada said. You may have experience in one lifetime of gold, experience of a mountain in another lifetime, and in this lifetime think of a golden mountain, right? A mountain of gold. So yes, it's explained that just as the fragrance of a rose is carried by the wind to your nostril, and there's a differentiation between the wind and the fragrance. In the same way, when the living entity leaves the body, the subtle body, mind and intelligence, carries them off into the next body. So that same mind is coming with us for so many lifetimes. And you can just imagine how many impressions are there. Sometimes we think of something and we think, wow, where did that come from? You know, and it's true, from another lifetime it came. And but that can work as an advantage also. One had been a devotee in a previous life and gotten really diverted into so many things else, but that impression is there in the mind. Of course, Krishna is also helping that devotee once having devotional service. Krishna never leaves that devotee. He just becomes, tried to shepherd that devotee back to devotional service. So that can also, one may be sitting there thinking, oh, Hare Krishnas, they're chanting on the street, that might be nice to do, and it's from a previous life, it's from a previous time of doing some devotional service. So it can work both ways, but mostly, for most people, it's working in a very negative sense, so many impressions from so many lifetimes. And yes, so real vairāgya, the word is vairāgya, and that's how Prabhupada in the verse is explaining it for us, is to become free from, the gross sinful activities and also the subtle sinful activities and subtle attachments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great question. I knew somebody was going to ask that. Yes, Mataji.
I don't have the exact reference, but a good friend of mine told me that he read that the devotees asked Srila Prabhupada, how does a kitten know to automatically go to the nipple when he's first born? Prabhupada said, old remembrances.
Paramatma's direction also.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for the wonderful class. I have a question regarding a statement that you said in the class about the mind, how it's so powerful because it's an energy of Krishna. And then you also said that it's even powerful than the soul. I just need a clarification on that. I always thought because soul is a part and parcel of Krishna, and if it shines forth, it is way more powerful than the subtle bodies or the gross body that we have.
Yeah, when the soul is properly situated, you're absolutely correct. But when the soul is wrongly exercising its minute independence, it becomes fully under the control of the material energy. And part of the one subtle energy is the mind, the false ego, and the intelligence. This is the shukshma sharira, or the subtle body, that covers the living entity. And the living entity has no power on its own to get out of that covering. He requires the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So the Lord, like in this chapter, He comes as the boar incarnation and performs wonderful activities so that the soul would be interested to hear about those activities. And simply by that hearing, just as we see, Vidura's hearing from Maitreya, and just by that hearing process, the living entity can become free from the entanglement of the material energy. It's so powerful.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for a wonderful class. I have one question. You told that if we live in the association of devotees, if we will stay in the association of a devotee, so we will be always be free from material contamination. And how to appreciate that, in what is the mode of appreciating the association of devotees? Which mode we can?
Well, a lot of times we don't have that appreciation of the devotees. And why? Because our mind wants us to break free of the association of devotees. The mind is saying so many things, right? It begins with finding fault with the devotees, right? And what the mind is saying is, get away from these guys. Come on, we used to really have a good time. Why are you hanging around with these guys? They don't know nothing, right? So the mind is doing its thing with us, right? And the shelter for us to ignore the mind, you have to ignore the mind, Prabhupada says. Of course, he cites his spiritual master's instruction and beat the mind with shoes in the morning and brooms at night, right? But what that amounts to is chanting very loudly, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. The Tadaran charan sevi bhakta sanivas janame janame hoy e abhilas. My desire is to serve the devotees, render service to the devotees. And again, we have to ignore the, what do they call in Hindi, kich kich karta hai, the mind's botherations, right? And follow the instructions of the Shastras. Render some service to the devotees. I remember when I first came to Mayapur in 1974, the devotees here were explaining to us that if you come to the Dham, it's very good, but to be able to appreciate the Dham, you have to render service. You have to render service to the devotees. So the devotees would, try to serve out the prasadam and in that way serve the devotees so they could appreciate the Dham. The Dham is this Mayapur Dham is in Kali Yuga, it's the holy place that has Shakti. It has power, right? But in order to appreciate it, in order to enter into it, we need to serve the devotees. Serve the Lord, serve the Lord's devotees. It's non-different, serving the Lord's devotees. And you can't serve the Lord unless you serve the devotees, right? You have to render service to devotees. And just like a businessman, if you're selling real estate, okay, you're always thinking how to make a deal, right? How to close the deal and what to say and how to do it so that you can make the money. Sabse badi rupya, right? So if you're in the Dham, it's the same thing. You always got to be thinking how to make advancement. How do I, when is the Dham going to reveal itself to me? When am I going to see Lord Chaitanya shimmering his golden form, and I'm going to be attracted by that? Well, the key is the service to the devotees. Always looking for that opportunity, how I can serve the devotees, how I can, do something to please the devotees, so that Lord Chaitanya, he'll become pleased with me. Right? A lot of times, Lord puts us in situations just to test us, Somebody will say something about us, and our mind will go off, right? Our mind will go off, and but he's like that, or she's like that, and we lost it. Right? There was this great devotee, his name was Urjasvat. He used to be the new Bhakta director in New York City. So he was a black devotee, black American devotee. To New Dwarka, yeah, wonderful, the kirtan leader, great person. And he used to take care of these bhaktas, and he used to say about some of them, that boy's mind took off like a chickpea hit with a baseball bat, So our minds are like that, Somebody says, we're gone, right? So these are the pitfalls that are there in devotional service. that we have to be aware of, and what helps us extremely powerful is to render service to the devotees. Like if I'm sitting here thinking, I'm going to give this class, everybody's going to think I gave a great class. No, but if my mood is, let me say something just to benefit the devotees, then, I'll get benefit and you'll get benefit also. And maybe even I'll get a little more benefit. Okay? Hare Krishna. Yes?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. One devotee yesterday I just interacted, and he was having one small question. Is it audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So when, as you said, Mahamantra we do, and is a process for liberation, right? So similarly, so he was asking, I am doing for a long time.
It's kind of like a side thing.
Sorry?
When you chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, yes, you will obtain freedom from material desires, material hankerings, liberation, you called it. But we know what liberation means. Liberation means attachment to the lotus feet of the Lord, and service, attachment to the service of the Lord. That's real liberation. But sometimes people have a misconception about what liberation is. That's why Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, after what he was liberated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's association, he wanted to change the Atma-rama verse from Muktipada to Bhaktipada, right? Because people have this misconception about liberation. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So he was asking that how he will feel that in which level he is now on the process of liberation, because as he's doing long time Mahamantra, that's it. So if you can a little bit throw some light for this. Thank you.
So he's chanting Mahamantra for a long time, but he's not feeling he's getting the result. Is that it? So what Prabhupada tells us is that although we're chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and it does, give all these things that we're looking for, we have to chant it without offense. If we feel that we're not making advancement by chanting the holy name of the Lord, then we can look at the 10 offenses and see what I'm missing there. One has to become free from offenses. Any other questions? Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. He had his hand up.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Your question, then his, and we'll cut it.
Yeah.
We'll take his question and then your question. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your nice class. So we see this year, after 144 years, this Kumbh Mela, Mahakumbh Mela.
Yeah.
So happened this Prague.
After 144 years.
Yeah.
Well, the first one that I went to, I just want to let you know, was in 1989. Right? We went to the Mahakumbh Mela. We had a big camp there. And they also were saying at that time, after 144 years. And then the second one that I went to, we had another big camp, and they were saying the same thing, after 144 years. So I don't know what that means, after 144 years. All the Kumbh Melas are after 144 years? I don't know. Yeah.
And ever since then, there's another, like today they say it's 144.
144. Maybe it's because 12 times 12, it's a gross, so it's 144, something like that. I don't know.
So we see that year after year, so ISKCON's preaching expanding, book distribution, Pustakam distribution.
Seems to be, yes.
Yeah, so we accept various sources of donors. So many backgrounds. If someone, some controversial personality came forward for the service of devotee, akamo, sarva-kamo, moksha-kamo, udaravhi, so all kind of Tibyana Bhakti Yogena, they want to serve the devotee. It is good symptom. The all kind of devotee, they are serving the came. So big businessman came and sponsored the for prasadam.
Yeah. Yes,
So,
Srila Prabhupada's attractive to everyone. Big businessmen also. One last question. Thank you all for patiently sitting and listening. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So here Prabhupada talks about material desire and how to be free from material desire. But sometimes we see that while coming into devotional service, we are doing devotional service, and while doing the service, there certain desire comes in. While doing the devotional service, like post-position and other things. So in that case, or name, fame, post-position. So in that case, what to do?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Chant loudly. Real loud. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hare